Hey guys, welcome to the Wrestling Escape Pod and welcome to this, I think, really exciting episode. This is an episode all about the worst wrestling storylines. I think anything that's going to be worst, dumbest, most embarrassing, they're always going to be the juiciest episodes and worst storylines. I mean, wow, does it get more juicier than this? So, we've got some really fun stuff to look at. But of course, let me shout out my co-host with the most of everything.
Yeah, everything.
Everything.
Right here in Boston, Massachusetts.
Triple T, Tommy Toy Travels. I don't think we've mentioned that you are from Boston before on the streams, have we?
Yes, I am from the Universal Hub. Not to be confused with the Paris of the 80s, which is Worcester. So.
Oh, okay. Nice. Fun fact. Hey, you're from Boston, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
You know all of your banks. Are they called Sasha?
Oh. No, they aren't. We have Bank of America.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then a couple others, but I can't name them all, just like I can't name all the states.
Well, it's not. I wasn't going to ask you. I wasn't going to check.
Okay.
You didn't need to worry about that. So.
San Anger is one, I think.
Yes. What we could do is maybe you could just shout out one every pod, and then in 50 pods time we will have named them all.
Yes.
Boom. So, What's the official state for this one?
The state?
Yeah. If you're going to name out one each podcast, and we're going to name all 50 over the next 50 podcasts.
Oh, I thought I was just naming banks in the Boston area.
No, we've moved on from banks. We've established that they're all Sasha.
Okay, North Dakota.
North Dakota, shout out to you if you're watching, listening in North Dakota. You are a winner! Well done to you guys. You don't win anything. You just win that warm inner satisfaction that this is your pod. This is your pod.
This is for you.
This is for you. Right, look, I really want to... I know that we normally talk about trees. I know that we normally talk about... crazy Ukrainian women that we
updates on my end.
No updates.
So we can dive right in.
Let's dive.
No updates.
Let's dive.
Let's do it. Deep sea swimming, baby.
Yeah! We've already spoken about the states. We've already ticked that box. So we're going to move straight in to this topic because, man, there's loads to talk about. Obviously, the big one, the one that's kind of regarded as the worst storyline in the history of wrestling. I've looked at a lot of top 10 lists and everything. It keeps getting named. I'm going to save that for a little bit later. So I'm not going to touch that one yet. But I want to talk about what is regarded as the biggest missed opportunity in the history of wrestling. This goes back to 2001, and this is the Invasion storyline. WCW had closed, Vince had bought his competition, and now what was going to happen? What were they going to do with WCW? What were they going to do with Sting and Goldberg and Hogan and Scott Steiner and Ric Flair and all of these big names? What plans did they have in place? And what was so exciting as well was this happened just before WrestleMania 17. So we were building towards 17. They managed to get, I think it might even have been the Go Home show when we had the simulcast. We had Shane in WCW. We had Vince in WWE. And, we had that big moment where Shane revealed he was now in charge of WCW. There is a McMahon on the contract, but it's Shane McMahon. And they had a match coming up anyway, Shane and Vince, and it played into that. Oh, it was tasty. What a time to be alive. So, how did it play out, though? The answer is horrifically. It's hence why we're talking about it here.
I wouldn't even say it played out. I'd just say, what happened?
What happened? Well, look, to be honest, it all comes down. Well, there's two things that happened, right? The first thing that happened is that WWE bought WCW, but a lot of the big stars' contracts were actually not with WCW. They were getting paid such big bucks that WCW couldn't afford to pay it. So their contracts, I think, were with Time Warner directly. So Time Warner were paying a lot of these contracts. So when Vince had bought WCW, he didn't actually acquire a lot of the big names. Now, obviously, fans didn't know this at the time, but it means that, yeah, he bought the tape library, he got some rings, he got the belts, and he definitely picked up, a good chunk of mid-carders and lower card people and whatever. But pretty much all of the main event scene, all of the names that people wanted to see, he did not acquire. So the problem was that the message was out there. WCW's been bought by WWE. They know there's money to be made here of these two colliding and these dream matches, but they don't have the superstars to do it. So that was problem number one. Problem number two is that the McMahons cannot get out of the McMahon's way. If there is a way, any situation in this world where the McMahons can insert themselves, they are inserting themselves. Like, they will put themselves anywhere they can. And they put themselves all over this. This should have been, very simply, WCW, WWE, right? Going against each other. And we did actually get a pay-per-view, the Invasion pay-per-view, which kind of was that. But as we said, the problem was they didn't have the stars, and the McMahons were all over this storyline. So how they tried to fix this, what they did was they did actually give a little segment of Raw to WCW, but it became very apparent very quick they didn't have the talent to kind of maintain that. You have to remember as well that WWE fans have been told for a long time that these guys were rubbish. If you tuned into WWE, you're constantly being told this is the better product. Whatever they're doing over there is pointless. They're not on our level. So now all of a sudden, bringing them in, the fans aren't going to be warm towards them, if you will. That was the enemy just the other week. So WCW as its own show, I think, they were looking at doing that, but they didn't have the talent. WWE fans weren't taken to it. There might have been a fan base from WCW fans, but would they tune in now knowing that WWE owned them? So, there was all of this complexity to it. So that didn't work. And then what they started to do was they started to bring in... They did something good here. They started to bring in ECW guys to try and pad it out, to try and make it so that it's not WWE against mid-card WCW. I mean, how can Undertaker, Stone Cold, Rock, Triple H, how can they go up against people like Hugh Morris? Do you know what I mean? How can they take on people like Hugh and Chuck Palumbo? Like, it's just not... It doesn't stack up. It doesn't work. So what they had to do is they had to try and get ECW involved. So they brought in the likes of the Dudleys. Tommy Dreamer came in. And so they started to lean on people like that. Rob Van Dam as well. So they tried to make it so it was more WCW and ECW against WWE. And they tried to do that. And that was quite good, actually. The only downside was they put Stephanie McMahon in charge of ECW. And WCW is obviously Shane McMahon. So you've got a McMahon in charge of WWE, a McMahon in charge of ECW, a McMahon in charge of WCW. As we said, McMahon's everywhere.
No, thanks. I'm good.
Yeah, and I mean, there was nothing for Linda, by the way. Robbed. #robbed. But she already had my heart. So, they basically did this pay-per-view. The pay-per-view is all right, the Invasion pay-per-view. But the bottom line is this. The talent that they had acquired just kept falling lower and lower down the card. This stopped being about WCW and WWF and all of that. It very quickly, it stopped being really about that. This was about Steph, Shane, Vince, and the story just wasn't what it should have been. And it built towards Survivor Series. We end up getting Team Alliance against Team WWE and Team WWE, or WWF, I believe as it was at the time. They were victorious.
That's awesome.
And that was it. That was, I mean, it was done. It was about the McMahons. I mean, we did get some nice stuff, as we said. I mean, the moment when ECW joined was great, but they kind of they started a fire and then chucked water on it by saying Steph's managing those guys now. I mean, what has Stephanie McMahon got to do with ECW? It's just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The other thing as well is that they turned Stone Cold. He left WWE and joined WCW and ECW, and that made no sense, because why would he want to do that? Because they're losers. There's no, do you know what I mean? There's no point going over to that team. That is not a winning team. So why would he even do that? But the reason they did it is because they needed star power on the other team. So they moved Austin over, and it just, you see what I mean? It's just it very quickly stopped being about WCW. So awful storyline, but did give us some good stuff. The ECW thing, the Invasion pay-per-view, Milkomania as well, which they actually made into an epic moment set. That was really cool. That was part of that's when Kurt Angle drove the milk truck down, kind of hosed them all down in the ring with milk. So there was a few decent moments, but the biggest missed opportunity. So
yeah, I knew you'd focus more on the historical stuff, so I wanted to do more contemporary from the past few years. So one thing I'm going to lift up right away is the natty farting gimmick. I don't understand where that came from. It was probably Vince McMahon heard someone fart.
I can tell you where it came from.
Tell me, please tell me. Reveal.
It came from Natalia's derriere. That's where it came from.
All right. Well, guys, here's the truth. She was actually farting. Is that what you're saying?
Well, actually, do you know what? I don't know the details of the finer details, if you will. When it comes to this, I'm not a connoisseur of this storyline, but yeah, I mean, like, she was around with the great Carlito at this time, wasn't she?
No, that was before. She was with Beth Phoenix during this, and they were heels. Okay. I guess that's to make her seem more like a heel, is by farting. I don't understand exactly. It seemed very childish. I did read an article on Bleacher Report where they talked about how farting was bringing down the women's division compared to the likes of Eve Torres and Kelly Kelly, and I was kind of just like, I don't know if that's the thing bringing down the division, but it certainly wasn't helping, and it's certainly one of those things where it doesn't make sense in this day and age, and it's the type of thing where, like, kayfabe said it helped her sharpshooters, but I don't think anything would help her career with that gimmick.
No, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. Like, I'm really, really pleased you've mentioned it, because I didn't have it written down. I mean, it just shows this wasn't that long ago, and it just shows where the women's division was at that time. Do you know what I mean? And it's just this is one of the best in-ring competitors they've ever had. And this this farting thing wasn't a one-off. It's not like this was just like a one-off for a week or something like this. Like, this was something that they kept kind of going back to, and so I can't give you the kind of finer points of it, because, to be honest, I don't think there are. No, I don't think there are. I've tried to erase it from my memory, like straight up erase it. Like, there's some storylines that are so bad, like the Invasion that we just touched on, that are quite fun to go back to, because you can be like, wow, what happened if they did have Hogan and all of those guys coming in that, and it's fun to go back and think, wow, what, there is no saving grace to the one that you're talking about.
No
positive spin. Horrible. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
I'm sorry to remind you.
Yeah, this has taken a really upsetting turn. I've got one from 99, so Attitude Era, kind of again, Invasion Angle, end of Attitude Era. This one bang in the Attitude Era. This is just a quick little one, but it's Al Snow and the Big Boss Man. Now, Al Snow famous for going around with head, his little mannequin head, and that was kind of his accessory, his friend in many ways. And apparently they went their separate ways, right? I say apparently because it's a mannequin head, right? So I don't know what the logic is here, but apparently they had a falling out. They had a split. And so he got a new friend, and that was a dog, right? Now I can get on board with this, okay? So he gets a new friend. He gets a dog. Dog's called Pepper, right? Now, I think it's at SummerSlam that the Big Boss Man loses his hardcore title to Al Snow, and obviously he's very upset. As a result, he takes Pepper. He takes the dog. You've taken something from me. I'm going to take something from you. So he loses his title, and as a result, he steals Pepper. There's a little bit of back and forth on this because Bossman says, look, I'll give you him back if you can beat me in a match. And Al Snow actually does beat him in a match. Bossman, being a heel, obviously refuses to do that. But, they arrange to meet up, and he arranges to, give the dog back. And they sit down, they have something to eat, and, they're talking. And obviously, you can kind of see it from a mile away. You can see it from a mile away. But what Al Snow is eating is actually Pepper. It's revealed that Bossman has killed the dog. He has turned it into a meal and then served it to Al Snow. Al Snow on TV eating, without knowing at the time, obviously is told and beyond horrified, but is eating his beloved pet dog. That storyline is kind of really, I would say tasteless. I don't know how it tastes actually.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Did they enjoy it?
He was, as he was eating it, he was into it at the time. I think, yeah. I think he was into it so that when the reveal came, it was even more upsetting, Did
he continue to eat it?
No, he didn't. He wasn't like, oh my god, oh. Do you know what? It does have a nice after. Yeah, there is a little something there. Oh no, bad. No, we didn't get that. That might have saved it actually. Oh, why was you not working on creative in 1999? That might have made it better. I
wasn't born yet.
So this led, anyway, the storyline, as we said, awful. But this led to a match that's regarded as one of the worst matches in WWE history, which is how this cements its place in this video. Because the match that happens is Big Boss Man against Al Snow in a Kennel from Hell match. Right now, I don't think there's ever been another one of these. And it's really strange. It's really strange because what they do is they put the old blue cage around the ring. Okay? So you got the old blue cage. Not the updated, chain link one. The old blue cage. I don't know why. They've gone back and got that. Then they put the Hell in a Cell around that as well. So you've got the old blue cage, then you've got Hell in a Cell. I can only imagine they probably thought, if we do the chain link cage, you're not going to see it with the cell because the cell is chain link as well. So perhaps they wanted the cage to somehow stand out. I don't know. But then the gap in between the two, they put dogs. They put these rabid dogs. Say rabid. They put these dogs. They tried to get police attack dogs to surround the thing that's a surround. They couldn't get them, of course. So they had to go to a dog shelter, and they end up getting the nicest dogs. These dogs are so lovely. They don't cause any trouble. They're just sniffing around. Some of them are having a little poop. Having a little lie down. I think I saw Natalia out there farting as well with them. I don't know. And it was. Oh, they were so lovely. There was zero threat, zero terror, and it's exactly not what they needed in a Kennel from Hell match. Unforgiven. After, one competitor has just been fed his pet dog. They did need a bigger payoff than this. But, I mean, the match itself is atrocious. The wrestling is awful. And then you've just got this lunacy outside the ring as well. And thankfully it didn't, the storyline doesn't really outstay its welcome. It doesn't, well, any more than it did. It doesn't go really on beyond this point. But yeah, awful story. Awful payoff. Awful.
I'm going to talk about some bad taste stuff. Not dog, but 2004. John Cena and Carlito. This isn't as contemporary as I said I would, but I wanted to talk about it. They were in a feud for the United States title, championship title, belt, whatever you want to call it. And there was like a storyline. The storyline was there was a point where Carlito, I don't know if he attacked him, but he went up to him in the ring, I think, or maybe backstage, I don't know, but with a knife. And of course, Carlito is the son of Carlos Colon, who allegedly had a part in the murder of Bruiser Brody with a knife.
Yeah,
he's not the one that did it.
No,
but he had a part. He allegedly had a part in it, and to have his son in a storyline trying to stab a wrestler, it's really
bad
cool.
taste. I've got an example actually that's kind of going to fit quite nicely with that in regards to bad taste, and that is the Muhammad Hussan and Davari storyline. These two, this could have worked. It's not an easy storyline to talk about. I can sort of see what they were going for. Obviously, it's very debatable whether they should have been touching this subject at all. But basically, after 9/11, they brought in this Arab American who was saying, it was quite an interesting take, because it's not as if he was an Arab that was saying 9/11, was it was the right thing and it should have happened and all of this, because I mean, there's just no way that would fly. So that's not, they were never going to do that. But they brought this guy in that was an Arab American. The character was an Arab American. And he said that everything was fine before 9/11 had happened. And I gotta tell you, this is hard to talk about. I'm talking about it and I'm like, man, it's such a, even now, it's such a sensitive subject. And I fully appreciate it. I can't believe they even went close to this in wrestling. I just can't believe they even went close. But he says that before 9/11 everything was fine, he was treated fine, and since 9/11 his world has changed, everything's changed. He faces racism from the American people now, and obviously the Americans are booing him and all of this, and he's just kind of part of it sort of works because he's getting that heel heat, but he's getting it by basically calling Americans racists, right? And he's an American himself. He's an Arab American, so he's kind of it's so on the line. I can totally understand that if already people are going, no, I don't agree with this. Totally get you. Totally understand.
It's the type of thing where, like, what he's saying was correct. There were a lot of trouble with racism after 9/11. Like, if people wore turbans or something, they'd boom pulled out of the line at an airport or something. And it's just like, to have WWE have that be the bad guy for saying something that's true. It's kind of like when Jinder was the heel and they put on these beautiful presentations for him, huge in Indian culture and heritage, like dancers and stuff like that. But as the audience, you have to boo because they're a bad guy. But to boo, you're playing into the racist mindset that WWE wants you to have against someone from a different culture. So it's this really weird dichotomy of they're a dick, their character's a dick, but what you're booing is making you the dick.
Yeah. I mean, the whole foreign heels have been a real staple in the history of wrestling. You know, the foreigner coming in and trying to take it away from the Americans or whatever. I mean, even all the way back to the early 1900s, I always use this as an example of Frank Gotch and George Hackenschmidt, because that's regarded as like the first crowning of a real world champion, because Hackenschmidt was massive in Europe. He fought in England. He beat everyone. I can't remember his record, but it's something like 2,000 wins and 5 defeats. That's like, it was incredible. And you've got to remember, back in those days, it was like there was a lot of shooting. There was a lot of real grappling that was going on. It wasn't like, here's your script. This is like, do you know what I mean? You'd turn up to a town and, you know, they might have a little word saying, you know, it might be an arrangement, might give him a bit of money and say, take the fall or whatever, right? But, you know, there's a good few times where people are going for the win, and Hackenschmidt had to be able to actually wrestle. So he legit was a fantastic wrestler, and he was the guy in Europe. Over in America, you've got Frank Gotch, who is, you know, really making waves, and the two actually meet. They get Hackenschmidt over, and they have this incredible mega match of Gotch versus Hackenschmidt. And you know, as I said, that's one of the early 1911 that that took place. I think it had happened a few times, but I'm sure like Fight of the Century was 1911, and that's Hackenschmidt against Gotch. And I think it took place in Chicago. It's always a great crowd in Chicago. I bet even then they had CM Punk chants. So that would be amazing. And so yeah, even all the way back then, you've got this foreigner coming over. Do you know what I mean? That's claiming to be the best. So obviously I wasn't there for that one. But I should imagine that the crowd were firmly behind Gotch, and spoiler, Gotch does win, and Frank Gotch is regarded as one of the all-time greats as a result, and he is one of the first recognised world champions as a result of that. So even going back to the earliest incarnations of what would be pro wrestling, you've got examples of that. Yes, it's really fascinating stuff. But the thing with Davari is that it didn't stay there. The problem with Davari is he used this. This is a line that was actually said, right? Davari said, "You people used a national tragedy as an excuse to let your true feelings come through." That's him talking about their racism, and that's him saying that you're using 9/11 to allow your real racist thoughts to come through. And it's so close to the bone, and we haven't even got to the bit yet that finishes this story, because even at this point they're positioning Muhammad Hussan as being a main event player. Like, there's rumors that he was going to be going for the championship, and actually he does have a match against The Undertaker, and it's during this feud with The Undertaker that Undertaker's fighting Davari. He's building towards the match against Muhammad Hussan, and as he's about to beat Davari, Muhammad Hussan drops to his knees, puts his arms out, and these guys in ski masks, like legit terrorist attire, come running down to the ring, and they start beating up The Undertaker. There is footage, WWE footage, of Undertaker seemingly being beaten up by terrorists at the hands of Muhammad Hussan, who had all this time claimed to have been, a victim of races, and now all of a sudden is summoning what looked to be. You have to say what looked to be because they were never confirmed, obviously, as terrorists or anything. But they were guys in like black ski masks, and it all looked very, very dodgy. The cherry on top of this cake is the fact that this takes place, I think, the same day, hours after the 2005 London bombings, when London had suffered an actual terrorist attack. And this takes place later, and the backlash against WWE, the backlash against the network is, well, Muhammad Hussan wrestles Undertaker, and that's his last match, and is never seen from again. This is just done. His wrestling career is done, because there's nothing that he could go on to do after this. So, do you know what I mean? He's finished, and
yeah,
I can't. I find it so difficult to know if there was something there. I don't know whether this is just a subject they just should not have touched at all.
I'll say this: outsiders coming in, someone out of town facing off against your local baseball team. That's an easy, tried and true storyline.
Yeah.
But once you start to make it a bit more nuanced, I don't think WWE has the capacity to handle things
You're
like
absolutely
race,
right.
like gender identity, and things like that. So whenever they try, it falls on their face, and it just seems very irresponsible. And it just, as someone that, like I said, like I'd be at the shows watching these Jinder Mahal segments, and it's like, this is actually kind of cool. Why are we supposed to boo him?
Yeah.
Like, what does that say about me as a person? Like, this guy's showing off his culture, and I'm supposed to be like, boo? But what does that say about WWE expecting us to boo? I don't know who the statement's about, but I think your example is so perfect, because not only is it WWE being so weird, so problematic about race, but also problematic about playing up on something that was true, but then just being like, hey, actually, he's a terrorist. Let's do a terrorist storyline. And then, because you said, like, yeah, we're supposed to assume, but we don't know. But the fact that they didn't continue with that, I think pretty much proves that they were terrorists, because if they stopped it,
I think that, honestly, I'm not sure they had much choice but to stop it. The backlash was, the network was inundated, apparently, and to the point where I'm even surprised they went forward and did the Undertaker Muhammad Hussan match after. Like, I'm surprised it wasn't just done. I'm surprised it wasn't just finished there and then. I suppose they'd put so much into it, and it was building towards a big pay-per-view match, that maybe they just thought, let's just get it done. But I mean, he gets squashed, he gets buried, and I think he gets given a last ride through the entrance stage, and I honestly can't recall ever seeing him after that. It's as if like he just gets last ridden away. So it's. I think you're absolutely right. I think there maybe was a way of telling a story, but I think you would have to have treated it so carefully, and it shouldn't really have been, because it. I don't know. I just think that something like 9/11 just shouldn't be touched. I don't know that they could have found a way, and so WWE couldn't.
Oh yes,
WWE couldn't.
I think a filmmaker could do an excellent job with it, but WWE does not have the nuance to tell a deep story. And I see a lot of people being like, "Yo, we need WWE to start putting in some LGBTQA plus storyline." I'm just like, no, thank you, please don't, because I know what it'll be like, and it'll be like that. It'll be like what's her name coming out and be like, Lana, I loved you, and then 2 weeks later, JK.
Liv.
Yes, Liv. Another bad storyline.
The just to finish up on that, I want to just mention that Zelina Vega's father, I believe it was, actually was tragically, his life was lost in 9/11. He is so Zelina Vega, that's on the current roster. His name is actually at the Ground Zero, where they've got all the names there and everything. It might be quite interesting to know what her thoughts are about that. I mean, obviously, it doesn't matter. If I meet her, I'm never going to ask. But as someone that actually works for WWE, that was directly affected in the biggest way possible, it'd be quite interesting to know. Because I can't sit here and say how offensive it is, because I didn't lose anyone in that tragedy. But I still stand by what we've said, and that's WWE in particular shouldn't have touched it at all. That's not even the worst, but it could be. I mean, honestly, it could be.
I can't wait to hear what your word is.
It gets worse.
Oh my gosh.
Did you have any more you wanted to throw? I got two more.
I just want to say two things that, again, I don't know what happened, but Lana's career, like any storyline that involved her, was just tragedy. Can you think of a good storyline with her?
Not with her, no. I mean, I thought she was very good when she came down with Rusev, when she was Russian, and they looked great as a package together. And she always used to wear like the business suits.
Yes.
I thought she was excellent there, but no, not an actual storyline that she's been in.
But like when she was with Dolph and Summer Rae was fake Lana, that was a bit. And then Bobby Lashley.
Although what I will say about that is that Summer Rae put on a great accolade on Lana. It's one of the best accolades I've ever seen. Like, she really stretches her out. It looks vicious. She really goes for it. When Summer, it's one of the only things I remember about that. She really is pulling it on. I don't know if there was backstage beef or anything, because she was ripping her apart.
So in your mind, that was best moment of all time?
Yeah, best Summer Rae moment of all time is her putting Lana in an accolade when Lana's with Dolph Ziggler and Summer Rae is, as you said, Lana 2.0.
She's now an Instagram influencer, I think.
Who, Summer Rae?
It's like her career. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Lana's like Queen TikTok. That's all I see her doing.
Yeah.
All I see her doing. Have you ever been on there, TikTok? You a TikToker?
No. I'm very anti-TikTok.
Oh, really? I would think that's right up your street.
It would be, but it's a little too sketch for me based on the leaked documents that say that they don't like people who are ugly, overweight. Like they push them down in the algorithm. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna fly on that app.
What? You'd be all right in that app. You're not overweight. You're not ugly. I'm speaking on behalf of the chat right now.
I'm saying I don't fly with people that play with that.
You and me are so different.
What do you mean?
Yeah, I'm all about holding down the ugly people. It's about time that us good-looking people got a chance to shine. Do you know what I mean? For too long, we've been held back. For too long. This is the worst
storyline.
Heel turn. I never heard that news. That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting.
Really sketchy.
Right, let's move on to Eddie, Ray, and Dominic. This was quite cringy. 2005, and I tell you what's heartbreaking here. This is one of the last storylines, proper storylines that Eddie Guerrero actually does. Eddie Guerrero passes away not too long after this. What I'm going to say about this storyline is kind of a bit of a theme, maybe not the Muhammad Hussan one, but a lot of these bad storylines actually start out quite well. Like the invasion, high hopes for that. Real high hopes for that. And this one as well, you've got Eddie, Ray, two of the best in-ring talents ever. So the talent is there, and the promos are really good. The way... This is honestly like an awful, horrific storyline that you then... Imagine the worst script, but you go and get Robert De Niro and you go and get Al Pacino, but they have to do like the script to Smurfs 4. Right? You know what I mean? It's just, that's exactly what this is. It's just, it's horrible.
The image that comes up of Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, Smurfs 4.
Smurfs 4. You tell me you wouldn't go and see that film because I'm already buying my tickets. I'm already going. So, yeah, as I said, I think this is really good. Basically, well acted anyway, I should say, well delivered. Even Dominic in this is brilliant. All Dominic does is just look upset and concerned, but he does it so well. He's really good. So basically, Eddie comes out and he says, I know that I said if you beat me, I wouldn't reveal the truth. And Eddie had lost to Ray. And he says, but I lied. So I'm going to reveal the truth. And the truth is, Ray's in the ring with Dominic. Ray is not your father, Dominic. I'm your father. So this big bombshell is dropped that Rey Mysterio's son is not his son. And that Ray has known this all along. And, of course, Dominic is very young at this age, at this point, and he's not had a chance to sit him down and have that kind of a conversation. I honestly wouldn't know at what age you would have that conversation. And he's not had it with Dominic at this point. So Eddie is the biological father, and he wants to get him back. Now, the thing is that he wants to get him back, but it's never presented that he misses him or anything like this. It's always presented that he wants him back because he just wants to hurt Ray. He wants to break up Ray's family. So it's not as if he misses his son and he wants to get his son back. He just wants to take something away from Rey Mysterio, that being a human child that is raised. So, yeah, it's what I'm saying. It's difficult. As I said, Dominic is excellent, is this. Dominic's saying to Ray, is it true? Is it true? And he's backing away, and Ray's getting upset and everything. And the way they deliver it is really good. So that was the first part. Next week, we get Chapter 2. Chapter 2 is Eddie has gone and got custody papers. And so he is now going to actually get legal custody of Dominic. And obviously, you know, Ray is beside himself at this point. The moment that this goes really silly is Eddie turns around to Ray and he says, if you can prove to me how much you love my son, I might just think about letting you keep him. And it's like, this is, do you know what I mean? Like, I think he's doing it to get to Ray. So it kind of makes sense that he doesn't care about Dominic, and he's playing with Ray, and he's saying to Ray, if you can prove that you... And so, you know, Ray cuts this real passionate promo about, I was there, you know, his first words were, Dad, and he said them to me, and I was there when he rode a bike, and, you know, all this kind of stuff, and he goes through, and it's a really good promo. And Eddie's like, nah, that's not good enough. So we move on to the next chapter, Chapter 3. And at Chapter 3, this is where you've got Dominic with Ray and Ray's wife in the ring. They're the family, and you've got Eddie on the other side, and he's there to basically take Dominic away. And, you know, there's some real back and forth here. And it all builds towards Ray saying, you've never beaten me. You can't beat me. Even if you take Dominic away from me, you've still not beaten me. You know, no one is winning in this situation, Eddie. So why don't we have a match? Why don't we have a match? And the winner can have custody of Dominic. Because Ray is that confident that he can win. And Eddie has never beaten Ray. But this is quite an interesting proposition. And so at SummerSlam 2005, at one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year, we do actually get this as a match. We do actually get Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero. The winner gets custody to a human child.
I don't think this is legal. I just want to say.
Yeah, you've got big question marks about it, have you?
Yeah.
It's, well, I mean, they did actually have... They had a woman in the ring that was from Child Services.
So it is probably legal.
Yeah, it is legal. She was there.
She was there.
Yeah, she was there. And she actually said that she was appalled by this, but she didn't rule it out. She just turned around and said that, Dominic, I'm afraid you're going to have to go into foster care until this is sorted or something like this, until this is resolved. Because I think she said something like, guys, this clearly is not about the child. This is between you two. So until this is resolved, I'm going to have to put Dominic into custody. And again, the acting's really great. You know, Ray instantly bursts into tears. You know, his son's being ripped apart. Dominic's heartbroken. Like some of the delivery in this. Eddie as well, brilliant. But at its core, what are they delivering here? An absolute mess, an absolute car crash is what they're delivering. So, yeah, custody over a child was actually a stipulation in a match. Not that long ago. 15 years ago.
Dumb.
Yeah, it is dumb.
Wrestling's kind of stupid.
It is stupid. I'm really regretting getting into it now after this video.
Yeah.
I feel like I've wasted my life.
Yeah.
Did you have any more you wanted to throw in, or should we get...
I talked about it on our, I think, WrestleMania entrances, but apparently, allegedly, backstage, a wrestler found out that Snitsky loved feet, had a foot fetish, so someone thought it would be a good idea to make that a part of his character. Now, I'm not going to kink shame or anything, but I'm just going to say what happens behind closed doors sometimes might be better to stay behind closed doors and not be a part of a character on a TV show.
I mean, all I will say is that this is coming from a man that introduced not only me, but everyone else watching to a site called WikiFeet. So
I'll just say I did like a BuzzFeed quiz on do you have a foot fetish?
Okay.
And I can confirm that it said I don't, and I'm really happy because I was nervous.
You know, this quiz was question 1, do you like feet? Yes or no?
It was actually. It was like, yes, no, they grossed me out. And then the third answer was like, they're fine.
I've been rumbled. How did they psychoanalyze me in such a way? This is amazing.
It was awesome.
Sounds like a very powerful quiz.
It was very powerful.
So, okay, I've got my final one. I should imagine a lot of people in the chat are going to know what it is. The ones that I just want to quickly shout out, we're not going to touch on them, but Mae Young giving birth to a hand. That's a thing that happened. Can I just say with this, apparently, Mark Henry said, like, why is she going to give birth to a hand? Because she was in a relationship with Mark Henry. And so it gets to the point where she reveals she's pregnant and she's going to give birth. And then during one of the shows, she gives birth and it's a hand. Okay? Now, Mark Henry in the meeting with Vince was like, why is it going to be a hand? And apparently Vince is just crying, cracking up, going, it's a hand! And he just loves the idea of it being a hand. He's like, oh, it's a hand. It turns out it's not a child, it's a hand. He's like, I mean, that's what we're dealing with, people. That's the man that's been at the top of the pyramid when it comes to wrestling for 40 odd years. So, yeah, that kind of really sums things up. I will say this, though. I did read, right, that apparently prosthetic hands have been known to be sex toys. So there was a little bit of a...
I will say what I said. I'm not going to kink shame. Yeah. I didn't know this, though, and I'm sure a lot of people in the chat didn't know this. So, like when I talked about WikiFeet, I think you're introducing people to something right now.
Wow, I'm going to very quickly move on before I reveal my collection of prosthetic hands that I've got over here. So that was Mae Young. Drake Maverick this year. There was lots of fire-ins. Drake Maverick was announced as being one of the people that had been let go. Then they brought him back. We still don't know at what point he was brought back or if he was even actually fired in the first. We don't know. But this got turned into a storyline. Can Drake fight and get his job back. What's really crazy here is the company that has put him in this situation, WWE, is now the same company that's trying to dangle the carrot of, can you get your job back? We've just let you go, but if you work hard, if you give it your all, we might just give you this contract here. You'd like that, wouldn't you? And we're meant to be cheering for this. We're meant to be sat here going, come on, no, just go to a different company that's going to treat you better. Do you know what I mean? It was awful. I hated it. Honestly, if ever I do, and I think, well, we might do it actually on this pod. We might do a worst of 2019 and 2019. We probably will do that, but 2020 as well. I'm trying to forget what year I'm in. It's been that bad. But yeah, worst of 2020. I'm pretty sure that moment will get mentioned. Lana, Liv, Rusev, Bobby, exactly what you mentioned. I've got it written down. Claire Lynch, we mentioned it in TNA. Like that awful fake pregnancy. Winner gets a DNA test. If AJ Styles had lost, he has to just admit that he's the father to this random child that he's got no knowledge of. It's just an awful storyline. But all of this pales into insignificance. Katie Vick.
Okay, I thought that would be it.
Yeah, Katie Vick. So, let me just quickly run through this. So, Triple H comes out and Kane's in the ring. He's just won a match, I think, for the tag titles, and he's had to win it on his own. I think his partner at this time's the Hurricane. And he's had to win it on his own because Hurricane had been attacked, I think, by Triple H as well. So, clearly, Triple H's got an issue with Kane. And he's about to tell us what that issue is, because he comes out and he says that Kane has a secret. And this secret is that Kane is a murderer. Right? Now, this is kind of like, obviously, a big reveal. People kind of already know that Kane's got a bit of a bad history anyway, so it's kind of not the biggest reveal in the world. So they're going to have to work hard here to really make something out of this, because we all know Kane's got a bad background, you know.
Bad boy.
He's a bad boy. That's not breaking news. So they're going to have to do some. They're going to have to push the boat out here, and whew, don't they do just that? It turns out that Katie Vick was a schoolhood kind of friend of Kane's, which raises some question marks considering he was meant to have been raised in a basement, sheltered away from the world, yet here he is going to high school and having like childhood friends and everything. But apparently they went to a party, they were both drinking, they both got drunk. Katie had too much, so Kane says, because he's a caring friend, you know, young Kane with the full mask and everything, he's a good person to have around. He was like, I'll drive. So he ends up driving, right? But he's had a bit
Was
too...
it with the robot voice? I'll do it.
I'll drive, Katie Vick. Yeah. So he drives, but he's had too much to drink, and he crashes the car. This car crash kills Katie Vick. She actually dies from this, and so Triple H comes out saying that Kane's a murderer. Obviously, Kane is saying that it was an accident. The promos, can I just say, this is one of the worst promos I've ever seen. Kane trying to defend himself, defend his honour, defend his character, stand up for himself. It is so emotionless, so lifeless. And at this point, this isn't like full face mask Kane. This is, like, I want to say around 2002, I think it is. So, you know, Kane's been with WWE a good 5 years at this point. Kane's been doing, like, comedy stuff by this point. So, there's no reason as to why he's so emotionless here. It's just, his delivery is awful. It is absolutely awful. So, they're sensing this isn't enough. They need to go a little further. So, Triple H then claims that Kane had intercourse with the dead body. He actually claims that Kane was a necrophilia.
Hey, remember when I said I'm not going to kink shame?
Yeah.
I regret saying that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we probably should have spoke about this at the very, very start, that there was going to be a lot of kink involved in this. But this isn't my fault or your fault. This is Vince's fault, right? This is all coming from his twisted mind. So, Triple H made that claim. Can I just point this out as well? It was never denied. At no point did Kane ever say, "No, I didn't. What you on about?" At no point did that happen. So I've got no idea to this day what the current mayor of, is it Knox County, Knoxville? We don't know what that guy's been up to. They really should have looked into that before they elected him. But then Triple H claimed he's got video proof, right? And this is the clip that everyone always sees. So there's a coffin, a casket, a mannequin inside, and Kane appears, but it's actually Triple H in a mask, and he jumps into the coffin and proceeds to seemingly, I mean, obviously he doesn't really because it's a mannequin, have intercourse with the mannequin. So we've Triple H.
Is that Triple H's fetish?
I've never asked him. Feel free to drop him a DM.
Okay. Mannequins.
That'll be an interesting message. Hey, the Wrestling Escape Pod were just with. Hey, Trips. Wrestling Escape Pod here. Just wondering. So yeah, he. Well, what happened. And Kane attacks Triple H, of course, and he says, I think he actually says, now I'm gonna screw you. That's what Kane said to Triple H. He attacks Triple H. Now I'm gonna screw you. So what that sounds like is, I did screw Katie, but now I'm gonna screw you. So now you're just like really fearful for what's gonna happen. Now I'm worried for Triple H, right? It's just there's no pun intended or anything here. This is a car crash. This is an absolute car crash in every sense. Next week, we don't know any follow-up on what had happened the week before. We don't know what had happened between Kane and Triple H. Triple H is in the ring. He's got the mannequin. The mannequin is wearing a high school cheerleader's outfit just to really ramp up the tastelessness, right? They turn that up. Then the Hurricane comes out, and he claims to have a video. And this is a video of someone getting a colonic irrigation. Is it a colonic? I think it's colonic irrigation. I'm not too sure. It's when you get your insides cleaned out via your derriere. Very much what Natalia was doing in the example set earlier. But this time there's like pipes involved and water involved and stuff. And the person that's having this done has got a Triple H mask on. So, and like the doctors are like doing this thing and they're like pulling out sledgehammers and stuff like this, you know? And it's just, it's not, it's got no impact. It's silly. It's just embarrassing. It's the kind of thing that it brings shame. If you watch this, you feel dirty and you feel shameful. And it's just, there's no excuse for it. There's absolutely no excuse for it. Apparently, this storyline, if you look at worst storylines, it's always there or thereabouts at number 1, number 2. It's always the worst. This story ran for about 3-4 weeks. That was it. 3-4. Everything we just spoke about was within 3-4 weeks. But it's just so monumental. It's, the worst.
Yeah.
Right up there with Muhammad Hussan and Davari and all of that. This is the worst.
Yeah.
Oh.
Moments, yeah. Purged ourselves from those.
I've hated this show.
Yeah.
It's really brought me down. I've got, do you know what I mean? I said at the start, I was like, oh, this is going to be tasty. What I failed to mention is that it's going to make you hate wrestling at the end of it as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, next week we'll do, I don't know, best dogs of wrestling.
Next week we're going to do a baseball watch-along. That's what we're going to do. Yes. We're going to watch the Astros.
Yes.
Is Babe Ruth still playing?
No, not anymore. He retired.
Okay. Well, I
watched the show about it.
I hope he's well. Because, next week might be on him. We might do a Babe Ruth special because I've really gone off wrestling.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Anything else you want to throw into the pot, my friend?
Peace and love. Happy birthday, Ringo Starr.
Yes. Is it his birthday? I haven't got a clue. Whenever I hear that name, I just think Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah.
Love that.
Peace and love, Thomas.
Thomas, if you're watching, Thomas, shout out to you.
Shout out to you in North Dakota.
Yes. Oh, yes. This is the North Dakota issue. So, shout out. Right, that is it, guys. We are done. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Tommy. I do hate wrestling now, but at least I enjoyed the journey. So, thank you very much to Tommy. Thank you to everyone that watched and listened as well. And hopefully, see you again next time. Bye for now.